This is Gerald Theo van Was. Every letter combination has a specific balance which puts your mind to it, or influences your mind, that you put your mind to it, that you sense the right balance so that you can experience what it is expressing in a way that you can remember it well, store it well, and also sense it well. And this is one of the things that I want to prove in many videos, how also every word, even with different meanings, if it really has one letter combination, it always has the same structure that pushes you in the same direction again and again, even in different significations and expressions of words that seem to be about completely different things. It hangs, of course, about several things. Several things hang together, of course. Do we use that word in context? Do we use that word as an object? Do we use that word to influence that we go into the right direction? It is, this mindset is also directed in the same way as every letter is directed. We try to find certain steadiness in it, with an objective goal in it, that we have really a focus, a very strong focus there. But sometimes a word is also not about that object where we work with, but it's more like in the verbs, you go to in a certain direction, or also in the grammaral sense, in the contextual sense, it is used slightly different, and also that aspect can also influence the way how we interpret words, even if they have the same structure. So we have a very good example of this. We have the word was, which I immediately have three different meanings for it in my mind, because it also exists in Dutch. It exists in the same way as the English word, and refers as what seems to be about a past condition, so was. But it's also, was is also used in Dutch for wax. In English it is wax. But it's also used for the laundry. We also call that was. The was. So the one thing is the was, the other is was, or wax, and the other is what was. So it is a bit, it has a bit a different context, and that context also gives it a slightly different focus, but the structure in all of these words is the same. We investigate it so that we really understand what these words are about, and why the focus on these three words is basically the same focus. Now when we see these three different meanings, it seems absolutely unrelated, but that's not the case when we look at how we look at it, how we approach it, and how we sense it. We will sense in all of these three words the same world of balances, which I will give you in, which I will provide you how that works in this video. And if I simply have the method how to translate it into a form, I have a method developed for that you can follow. And when I just do that intuitively, you have this W, which is about the waves that's getting bigger and larger. Ends now go into one from one position, or A, from one center position, or A, they increase out and go outwardly. Ends in S, or in the outer border actually of the maxim where it is. This structure that I have already immediately in a form fits quite well for water, the water of the washes, and it also fits somewhat to the form of the wax also. So it has this waveform which actually comes to a halt and materialize it to a certain border. So until there, that quite fits well, but it doesn't fit at all for the aspect of time. And if you really go further to laundry, we don't see the washing of the laundry. We see how it can be washed ashore. That could be something like that, but not the laundry. So these two aspects are not recognizable in this form. And how does it come? Because I didn't really design it with all the aspects. There are always three aspects you have to deal with, always three, in every way, in every starting point of thinking that you use, whatever method you use, you always have to be aware of these 3 points. First point is a materializing thing, so the forms that take shape, that's what I did here. Then the direction in time, and then the context. The direction in time is already not visible, so we have to add that because W is about timing and S is about context. So no, we need more associations to finalize it. Not much more needed, but you need to have this awareness pointed in here. And the S is now a bit more visible, how the waves in the end will find a balance somewhere at the end. So that's where the balance seeking context comes in. And the arrows here are changed into green, so they changed into a direction. So now you see the direction in time. That's the time factor and a bit of the contextual factor as well. So that it is involved in that aspect where you can realize what the end effect, or where the end effect with different variations can be. So where this watery aspect actually, or cloudy aspect from W, is pushed back to its limits and gets a feedback from the S, and that region in between where the result is can still intuitively be understood of a focus for our laundry, where we have this pushing and pushing back of these watery conditions. So we can still understand that one intuitively without much of more than that level. The aspect of the time aspect, even if we added the time process here, pushed forward and pushed back, we cannot understand and we cannot recognize as how we understand it immediately that is about the past. I'll come to it, why it still does fit, but at this moment the time aspect that we had is just that little time of interaction on this S border where it is. But what does that time aspect in the words then? Just let's say in the letters, where does that time aspect is ordered? What kind of order is it in the time aspect? And then I will compare back, and maybe I will question it. Is it really about the past? But before I will ask that question, let's first focus on where is that time aspect in the whole system of balance between the letters. Where does time actually and the time aspect comes forward, and how is this given an order? And we know that every letter starts from the number 1, so from the first idea, from the A, which pushes our idea about the reality forward, and it goes forward, and it continues to work out its ideas until the last letter where it can still do that, and that's the W, and that's where it started. The W is actually the last point where you can push things forward, and you start to sense, I have to see what I have left, what's left here, and that what's left is sensing a pushback. So it has to face its limits, how far it can push its own vision, its own time schedule, also its timing, and how it does the things, how it gives an order to the things, that personal push, how you recreate reality. From the moment after W, the feedback process goes into the other direction, and by the time of S, it is about that other direction. So the was is really on the edge of these 2-point contrast as a matter of speaking. So it comes down to it actually at the W. We reach the limit or border of our personal timing. Everything that we give an order to, that's as far as we can go. And from there on, the feedback will start to occur and will also be inevitable. And the results of that, how far you can go and how far you can also protect yourself actually and keep your sense together, is described in that condition. So far, it still does not much with the idea that was is about the past. But was does not exist without is. We don't even understand the word on its own, was, without having is in our mind as that contrast. If we put these contrasts in there, the contrasts are also there in the whole system of letters in order. The last 2 letters of the whole system of complexity is, by the way, I and S. And that's also the contrast of the whole feedback process. So what was is really the maximum of our own process with our own pushing forward before and that feedback from it. The only association I can already make from it, that what I push is what I sense, what comes from me, comes from everything I understand or understood. So whatever that was, let's say, where that comes from, we don't really realize how we are, what kind of logic that we use, because a lot of it is learned. Some of it we think it is intelligence, but mostly we're just repeating what we already know. It is also about what was. So until that part, it is matching already a little bit, but it's still not matching completely. I will come to that, why we still don't see that much, because it is the mindset that we are not following at this time. We just presume that was is about the past and is about the present. But what we discover so far in the letters, what is really expressing in the letter is was is our viewpoint as far as we can go, while is actually the push of the real feedback of what really is, how the things are in general. So is it really about the present? So probably not. And so there's already a relative like is or really about what is now or not, or is it about what is and always will be? Then you have will as well. So how much is this contrast? This contrast is clearly there in the organization of sounds, the balance in sounds. We immediately have was and have is in our mind as a contrast, but there are more contrast. You have will and you have could be and ought to be and all kinds of organization in time. So it still does not match. So what is it does not show itself in that way. So what is the real meaning then of was? Is it really about the past and the present or not? What I think beforehand, before analyzing the letters, I think was is about the past on the time schedule. So that's my expectation. What was is, and what really is expressing it, is how we approach it. While is then the contrast on the moment, also on the time spectrum. So it is not really about it is only about what you have. You think it is only about what you have now and what you have in the past. So that is the contrast that we first sense immediately. Even if you can add more time aspects there. And when we hear the word was on its own, just on its own, we just put the word was. Do you really immediately understand that it is about a certain past sense in that way? No. We need context in it. So it is a different word. Again, you have these 1, 2, 3 options of watching and interpreting a word. Here we need the context. And this context immediately brings us to these contrasts of is. So how do we proceed then? How do we perceive? How do we see this word? And how do we interpret it intuitively? And how do we understand it from the letters? And therefore we need our scheme again. Because for the words that are about objects, it's very easy because that's the starting point of our scheme. And that's about our opinion, how we see things, and we build it up from beneath. It's like the was, like the association with water or with wax. You also have that. You also have this material. It grows with up until a certain border. So until that is easy and that is understood. But also for the approach of words, you could have different associations, that some words could be about pushing you into a direction, not more than that, just like in the verbs, for instance. And the word was as a verb not only does that, association to what direction do you need to go to. With to, it is about direction only. It is also about context. There's a context in it, and with this context you always have different points of access that play along, and the different variations that play along, and you still have to figure out, what is the balance here of my reality. Immediately you come to the mind, you have was against is. So that contrast immediately comes to mind. So it is from a different level of understanding it. And so we have to understand it also in the context how words in general or letters in general are given context by the whole balance of letters themselves as well. And there we have it again. So this balance of letters is pushed by two options of directions. One direction is my opinion that I follow, and I push it forward up until a certain border where I can see, oops, I cannot go further, which is the W. And you have, on the other hand, you have all the feedback systems which come together and are actually completely expressed in the last two letters. Is that context. You see the context and you can sense, okay, but where is the reality? And that reality pushes down. You can see where the reality is, when the reality is, how much there is, and that is the expression of is. Such words that are only about context, that pushes you into the context, how things hang together, are directing words. Words like is are directing words in the system, in the big structure of the how words hang together, how sentences hang together, how a sense of thinking hangs together, how the structure of pushing your feedback system into your own sense of sensing reality pushes you actually to follow the reality and go back to reality and give it a balance that it needs. These kind of words were actually the beginning of a higher sense of a feedback system that exists in the letter combinations and words. There's some words that are more important on that level, of the structured level, to push the grammar, to push your thinking, to push the general hanging together, the structure as well. And this is one of these words. And this is the influence of what you can also call as the word. It's not just about separate words that are on a lower level, just about objects, about what can you follow, what you cannot. No, this is directing really, and directing also the reality and your sense of reality, and that you can sense it in a way that we can deal with it and can handle it. Is such a word, and words like that were after a while also associated as words of importance that should inspire and so on. And when you go back to one of the most ancient texts where it says, in the beginning was the word is really literally a living word. That is that word that pushes the structure of how things hang together. Words of meaning. And if you have the good translation of these ancient texts, it doesn't refer to the word God. The word God was not there, but there were different words, and there were different words on different of the separate books. These words were all translated into God, and we have immediately a derived version that has a vague idea what it is about, and you no longer sense it. These words are important, words that were originally, like in the first text, El or Al, which is still used as it, or which is used in the word of Allah, Ol, or in Ole, where they even sense it. Yes, I have it, I know, I sense it, I can sense how the life hangs together. There is that word related, like I sense that word, I sense that push, how things work well. Another word like that, which comes from ancient Egypt as well, is this is, which comes from there. This is like to be, which is related with is plus is or Isis. In the Chinese and Japanese, you also have words and letters of importance, like the letter N or R, which I can come back to that as well. These letters have a certain position that pushes you with the R, how it hangs together, and with the N, what the things are, what definitions make up, and how you come to definitions. I'm not going to talk about that much more today, but that's important. So this is and was. So now we know there is a contrast in the system, in the structure. And if we're talking about words that are important in the pushing itself in the grammar, it's also about the structure of balance. And the structure of balance follows the rules of the third category, how the balance between the letters exists. So I ask again, is, was, and is really about past and present, as we first saw it as an easy contrast. Is now and was the past. Or is there another contrast? Is this contrast pushing us to a different idea about a logical contrast which goes a little bit further and deeper than that? But you can still derive to that simplicity. And that's what I will go further into it and explain it further, because also when we simply think about is that really about the present? Because we say what is can also be in the past, it can be in the present, and it can be in the future. It is a value which is more like eternal. It's an eternal value, and the eternal value was also there in the past. Now I say was, but it is also living in the past, and it is living in the future. You can say that. So you cannot say it was in the future, but you can say it is still in the future, or it is what also it is already there. It is already there in the past, present, and future. So it is much more than there is that balance in timing, but it is much more about we discover the right value, and that's again this structure of context is this context into three parts, and you see how much is it now. So that's more is. It is most now, less in the future, or always in the future, and less maybe in the past. That's something that you can have. That's one thing that we can discover, and it is more about the conditions, that you discover how the conditions are and how they hang together, and so on. So the contrast between is and was will very quickly be clear. It is a bit more subtle than that, and it will be described in the contrast with the letters, how I will describe it a little bit better in the next slide. So in the is first, I will show that again. You have this is position, which pushes you in a feedback system towards the moment of now, where you start from, to your starting moment. If you really know that, you have it all the time. And it's in between never and always. So it's always there, but maybe a little bit less in the past, maybe a little bit more in the future, but it is between never and always. These are the kind of mathematical balances in S, which are always in the same way expressed as well. From the general context, is the general context. So these are the eternal values that is, or is plus is, that are, or are, experienced via that feedback system, which conditions can start to understand in its current reality. And what is then that contrast with was? Because we know now that is that context, is the general context. We know also that it is the pushing against, it's pushing as a feedback against at what we thought reality was and where we start from. The pushing the reality of what it really is towards you is expressed with the letter Z. It's going inwardly, and it changes your conditions, that it now confirms to the reality what is and can and will be and can only be and should be, and so on. And that's then very well expressed with Isis or Isis. It's the old ancient Egyptian goddess, if you don't know that yet, so you can look that up, what's her position. And that's very fitting into the scheme at that point. And that works to a certain degree against every thought of reality where you started from, if it's not a match. If it's not a match, it will have a feedback, a stronger feedback that it needs to change from there. And if it's in balance, okay, then it's also a prosperous situation at that point. So what is then the difference actually between was and is or Isis? Isis is then what needs to be done to become what is. Was is my opinion, and the contrast, if there are contrast and you sense the contrast, the sensing of the contrast is it makes actually a selection between what is and what until where I could go. So, and that where until I could go is also a focus upon until where I can make mistakes. So there were some things that maybe are not there anymore, and it pushes back. So in was you also have elements that pushes back and pushes us away. So and it also has a relation. This was has also a relation in past, present, and future, as that kind of what can be left over from me. So what was in the past, what was mostly in the past, because it's about the negative thing that in the never area there. But some things can also be what was maybe possible in the future, let's say. So what was possible in the past, and so on. You have that kind of variation which more sees the things from your opinion, from your viewpoint, and so on. And often it makes that contrast about what is still correct for is now, the past, or the future. So it's not directly about past and present always, but that contrast is more important. You check the contrast, what you can keep as a leftover, that makes sense. Just to complete the religious association of the past, there are words of importance. Also, in the past, the more we forget about the past, the more about, especially when it comes to religion, it becomes like persons. We think that all the gods from the past, as we call it now, is really about gods. No, it's about principles. In Buddhism, they still talk about principles, and they don't talk about the gods here and the gods there. Now it's about the principles, the higher principles that presents what is pushing the whole balance of things against each other. So Isis is already explained, and it is referring to the correct performance of life with its direct results of that. Ra, in that way, could say this is about the correct connections that it can make immediately to you, to how you pushes the word. If you follow what you can receive in life, you follow Ra or Ra or Ra. It's that same aspect as the Zhe in the Chinese script. It's that fitting in person that is influenced by the Ra sound. There's the progressive connections that you can make to everything that is making these connections possible. You also have the Horus, or the hour, which you can see the word hour in it. It's about how you can have to time things or everything. So how the timing is. So at that point it's more was, and then it's more is. It's no more always. It's never. These kind of occurrences can be imagined in that direction. Horus, or the falcon, will also at times will also kill what is the end of the life, so that it will not be there at that point anymore. Or just a quick association. Osiris is like the os or axe or os or ox in the beginning, the starting point of the system. In the springtime, of course, when everything is prosperous and can go a whole cycle again, as a starting point in life. So you can see these associations. Don't have to see them as persons, as gods, although they can inspire on certain level. They are livable words, they are life words, which inspires you, that they also occur in that balance. But you have to remind you that the basics of how you can sense them is in the words, not in the imagining what you do, how you can imagine them and interpret them as an image. Image seeking or cloud seeking is not the way to treat it. Now you have to try to sense it, sense what is the balance, and you sense the balance, and you know how to act and react. Just learn to speak well. It's already a very good thing, and understand the subtle differences between in the grammar and so on. And you have already a lot of things that are also spiritual or not spiritual, whatever how you see it. It works. So this contrast between is and was already well explained here before. Between the is between the never and the always, and the was in between what you push and what has been pushed from elsewhere, how that can be made in a protective layer, even in such steadiness there, if you would like. That's also possible. So you can see this W is there. In the past I thought it was, you can say, but in the future I can also say I thought that was the case, but it is not the case. So you see, was and is not just past and present, because you can use also the words in the past and present, both of them. But the contrast is there. The was, as in my conclusion, says it is not always related with past, but more with the idea, how did you think about it? What was your, how did you see it? In comparison to the contrast to how things are and how they really are in past, present and future, and in which balance. And so if we compare it then actually to all the words that we have that expresses was, let's see if we really can sense this layer in between, what we can make from it, until where we can also protect our own idea from it, until we have to change this layer of contrasts, where we try to keep our momentum together. Is that understandable in all the meanings? Yes, I think very much and you could see it as a confrontation area for your own efforts, pushing against other conditions. But it's not necessary that you have a push. You can just focus on the balance as well. The laundry is that also pushing. Now we see this watery condition. This watery condition pushes in and out until you only keep your own the basic conditions, the sheets or whatever you have, and all what you don't need, what is not needed, what was, will be washed away. And then the past and present, as we had it, it's not that really past or present, but is that in that kind of selection procedure focus, we have that contrast between was and is. So we make a distinction between what is and what not is or not do not belong here. Is the same thing. You pushes out what does not belong there, just like in the laundry. You pushes out and you keep that out. That was the was, which is washed away. And then the last one, the wax, is also a layer which keep the moisture again in such a good balance that you keep the extra moisture out in this way, or in how it has to be balanced. So you keep the circumstances that you want intact from any conditional changes that there certainly can be. You keep that balance of the was, which in English is expressed as wax. So all these, then I will repeat one more thing about this kind of almost religious thing, that doesn't have to be religious, but all these context words are really steering words for your purpose. Words like was, la, al, it, to, are all referring to this ancient text, or this ancient text all refers to the words and balances that matter. What other things matter, that there are 7 days in the week and we seek a balance. That kind of things or in that particular text, they define what they think at that moment is the position of the male and the female. That's also a certain starting point of a change in reality in a certain history of a certain people. That was decided and that was put down, and they put that reality there, and they also put the words there. So in the beginning was the word. These are the words which pushes you. The very ancient texts, which are at this moment remembered as a Christian text, was actually a Jewish text, and the Jewish texts are different, and I wrote about that in my book as well, because they're also about words and letters, the order of letters, or the order of letters, how they see it, how they see the order of letters and the order of the world. It's that pushing back, this pushing, which can also be sensed really, how it is. This underlying push in the whole structure is trying to keep a good order, and you don't need to sense it from a religious sense, but it's one of the, some people like to follow that path, and that can inspire them, otherwise they would not pay attention to them. You can even already pay attention to just words and letters and sense them, how they pushes you, your thoughts into a certain direction, and try to learn it in that way, how these words also try to push you in such a way that it keeps the things in a good order. So the words themselves are the living order, and you don't need to add projections of persons to any of such important words. The words themselves are the living matter, and they guide you, they protect you, and give you an automated order for a better hanging together of all your experiences. And I hope this was also enjoyable, this video, quite long. And the preparations for such thoughts that I just ended are to be found in the Changeling of Seasons, which also gives you a small preparation of such ideas, just to read them, not that you understand them, but that you sense them, because the first thing is sensing, and sensing it even if someone discovers it and it comes to you, that sometimes it's the first thing. This balance is there, you can see it. You don't have to overanalyze a painting, just sense it first and sense really what's there. And that's why sometimes you need first a context that has different ways of thinking, like sensing it, what you see, what you sense, and also the balance that you sense in there. And some people have the religious path, others have the magical path, others have the very ancient seeking balances between the elements. All of them are expressed in the Changeling of Seasons, and they are slightly preparing the ideas of the letters, where the letters are focusing to, before giving you a solution of a rational way how to approach it, because that's the rationality sometimes is overestimated, because people already rationalize before they understand anything. The understanding doesn't come from rationality first. It's a balance also between the elements of your sense, of the sensibility organs that we have. The organ of balance in letters, the organ of balance in movement, and that kind of thing. So if you want more preparations, go to these books or to the website of Facebook, where you can subscribe to new new videos, announcements, or via the YouTube channel, or you can also go to the website below and check what I have made before. Leave a comment if you would like. Sorry, that's always very long videos, but there's so much to say, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.